Well, welcome everybody to the Dry Bones Army podcast. We are super blessed today to have a dear, sweet friend and just a woman that everyone needs to get to know. It's Brandi Voth, and she is both smart and funny. She is absolutely has blessed my life really in a lot of ways. And just our friendship has been a treasure over the years. And I invited her on today to share a little bit about the work that she's had her hands in for years. And she's going to share some of her stories with us, some insights on how you can be more effective in praying to end human trafficking. And if you're not yet a part of the Dry Bones Army, go to thedrybonesarmy.com and get signed up. It's absolutely free. We send you an invitation to join us in praying for an end to human trafficking. And we get to introduce you to incredible people like Brandi Voth. So with no further ado, Brandi, welcome to the podcast.
Like, there is no other army that I would rather be a part of. Like, I'm so excited to be part of the Dry Bones Army. But like, I need to talk about one really important thing before we get into anything else. It's your eyeshadow game, man. Like, you are so good at eye makeup. Like, every time I see you, I'm mesmerized because you have beautiful eyes, but then your eyeshadow game, man, is like on point. So if you ever launch an eyeshadow army, I would like to join that one as well.
Well, gosh, Brandi, thanks for the compliment. Now I'm going to be batting my eyes through the hole. This is good for people who are listening to the audio who have never seen Sandy Storm like on video. These are always posted on YouTube, so you can check out the eyeshadow.
Yeah,
On
like go
YouTube.
jump over to YouTube just to see Sandy's eyeshadow. Like, I
You're
highly
so
recommend
sweet.
it. I have a heart for elevating women, like you said. It's one of my favorite things, and not just women, but people in general. I love helping people see themselves through the eyes of Christ, who they were created to be, where their identity lies, where their strengths and gifts lie, because so many people have so many incredible gifts that they don't even recognize as gifts and strengths. And so I love calling that out of people. I love pulling people into a greater calling. I like convincing people to get out of their comfort zones. Like, it's one of my favorite things to do. And so I think that my I could go back to, like, I was an international studies major in college, before I burned out and blew off a really huge scholarship. That was fun, but whatever. But I had this heart for elevating others and creating change, and my focus at the time, it was women and children in developing countries and socioeconomic issues, and it really was like eradicating poverty and vulnerabilities. And it's so beautiful. Like, I think what I've found, the gift of the 40s, is to be able to look back and see God's hand at work and see him just like weaving threads together into this beautiful tapestry. And so I can go back and I can say, like, none of that was wasted and none of that was lost, regardless of whether I finished with a degree or not. That foundation really catapulted me to where I am today. I couldn't see it then at the time. Like, I just knew that I felt like a loser and a failure who quit college and walked away from a bunch of money. Um, but fast forward to 2017, 16 to 17, I was leading a sales team of about 400 women across the US and Australia and Canada. And I had really had a fire reignited. I had just come off of being a stay-at-home mom for about 10 years. And I was in a place of remembering what really sets me on fire and what my passion is in life. And so I was doing leadership training with these women and sales training with these women and mindset training and just really helping develop leaders, right? Like, helping elevate women. And I loved it. It set me on fire. And then God started tapping and nudging and saying, "Hey, um, I have more for you. And you've done well." Like, at the time, I was successful in business. I had a great family. I had beautiful children, a good marriage. But God was like, "Hey, there's something else out there for you." And it was one of those times where, like, he was not going to leave me alone about whatever it was he wanted me to do. And so I just started leaning in and said, are okay, like open hands, open heart. You're waking me up at 3 o'clock in the morning every night. I don't know what you want me to do, but here I am. I went to a conference in April of 2017. The speaker at the end of the conference said, it was one of those like, you're in a room full of like-minded people and we're talking about purpose and oh, everyone's like so ready to change the whole world, right? And so at the end of the conference, he said, I want you to write down this year, which was 2017. This is the year that I blank, and you fill in that blank. And so I literally, what I wrote down was go to Africa. And I just like, as an international studies major, as a evangelical Christian woman, like, I don't know. I don't know if I just felt like Africa was the way that you serve others. I don't know if it was because I had friends with orphanages in Africa. That was what I wrote down. It was not the year, spoiler alert, that I went to Africa, but I went to Australia the next month for a business trip. And while there, I saw a billboard that said something about immigrants being targeted for human trafficking. I probably had heard this phrase or this term in the past, but it was the first time it resonated with me. Like it was the first time like it just grabbed hold to my heart and I needed to know more about what it was, right? So then I saw a poster in a casino when we were going to dinner there that said missing children are targeted for trafficking. And my lens of American privilege said, oh, Australia's shady. They got a problem over here, right? And so went ahead, went through my trip. It was a business trip. We did all of the things. And then when I came home, this term, this phrase just would not let go of my heart. I had no idea like what it meant. I didn't know the inner workings. I just knew that it was just not letting go. And it started showing up, right? Like this was before it was like a trending topic. Started showing up on social media. I started hearing about it on news channels. It was like everywhere I looked, it was boom, boom, boom. We were talking about trafficking. So I just started reading and watching documentaries and Google searching and just trying to find as much knowledge as I could soak up and still sitting back saying like I have no idea what God wants me to do with this. Like I don't want to be involved with it. I'm just learning. Like this doesn't sound like anything I want to do. And then it was every night. Like literally I look back and I really think it was 3:20 in the morning every night, but I know it was 3 o'clock in the morning every night. And I would just wake up and I would just like heart racing, like breath catching in your throat, like, okay, like what do you want me to do, God? Like what are you trying to tell me? I would like to go back to sleep. And I just started praying like, yes. I would wake up literally and I would say, okay, yeah, yeah, whatever you want me to do, just let me go back to sleep. And I just started hearing like move your feet and serve where you are. And I heard this repeatedly every night around the 3 o'clock mark. And so one night I laid there for 2 hours and literally saying, I don't know what you mean by move your feet and serve where you are. And so I got up and I got on my computer and I found the Walk for Freedom A21. And I thought, well, this seems like a literal way to move my feet and serve where I am. It's a local walk done at a global level. So, all right, moving my feet, serving where I am. Cool. I am not a marathon runner. I am not a person who signs up for walks. I'm a speaker, I'm an author, I'm a podcast host. I use words. That's what we do. So I literally think I had a conversation with God that night where I was like, you're wasting my talents, but whatever, because that's just how I work. And God knows it. And so I'm real honest with him. So from there, this chain reaction began and I got plugged in with a local coalition where I learned about other organizations. And then I started teaching a vocational planning course at an aftercare home because I do business coaching. So it was a great marriage of my gifts and my strengths there. And then we needed jobs for the people that I was mentoring. So over the course of a few years of creating vocational plans and then seeing people face obstacles due to criminal backgrounds, gaps in resumes, lacking marketable business skills, I just thought, man, we really have to create some type of a solution for this. And so yeah, like you were one of the first people that I talked to about the idea of creating a hat company and creating transitional employment and gap income for individuals who have experienced trafficking and exploitation. And I just knew that we needed a way. My thought process was we needed some way to attach these individuals to a life of purpose where we could use our work to still glorify God and use our work to really utilize and leverage our gifts and strengths and not look at it as just like punching the clock or trying to make money to pay the bills, but really do something that is God honoring and that we love and gain skills and references and experience along the way. So, we've been doing that. We launched in October 2020, the Power Hat Company, and that was fun. We launched in October 2020. There's a little blip on the radar that has affected the last 4 years of my life because, we just have challenges in business that we never had before
Yeah.
that year, and so it was a cool time to launch a new endeavor. And yeah, it's been sanctifying. It's been an incredibly sanctifying experience.
Mm.
I've prayed from day one that whatever happens with this company, it needs to be like such a testimony that there's no way anyone sees me in it. They only see God in it, right? Like
Mm.
only God could do that. And like every time I get to a place that feels like an impasse, I sit back and I'm like, well, guess what? They gonna know this is all you because I got nothing. Like I'm tapped out, maxed out, and he keeps providing. And um I did a call earlier with the team where a young man in Uganda shared that thankfully we serve a God that knows our tomorrows, so we don't have to. And I thought, man, that is just like one of the best ways to sum up my entire life. And that brings us to 2024. Um, I I went into 2024 feeling very unlike myself. And like I said, October 2020 or March of 2020 to today has been an incredible challenge for me personally. I'm a very positive person. I stay very encouraged. I'm like, you tell me I can't. I'm like, hold my beer and watch this girl. Like, let me run through brick walls. Let me kick down doors. And I've wanted to quit and give up more times in the last 4 years than I ever have my whole life. Like discouragement has been a thing. Defeat has been a thing. And so I, being a person who usually has a word for the year and a scripture for the
Mhm.
year and goals for the year, I went into this year feeling like I didn't know I didn't know what it held. I just knew that I had faced a lot of obstacles in the past few years and it felt like doors kept getting slammed shut in my face. And my sweet friend, Sandy Storm, messaged me, I believe January 2nd. I think it was January 2nd. And you said, "Hey, hi friend, checking in. What's your word for the year?" And I was like, God, she's really positive right now. And and I said, can I just be honest with you? Because like that's the type of friendship that we
Mm.
have that I can, I know that I can lay out all my ugly and you're gonna be like, okay, cool. And I said, I feel very uninspired. I feel very defeated. I don't know what God's plan is for this year. I don't know what my word is for this year. Like I don't know. I can't even tell you what I think I want to, God's calling me to this year. And you said, "Well, that sounds very unlike you." And you said, "So we're just going to start praying that God reveals your word." And our good friend Tommy messaged me like the same
Mhm.
day wanting to know what God was calling me to this year. And I gave her the same answer. And she said, "Well, girl, I'm going to need you to put some worship music on and blast it and just give it to God." So I did. And that same week, God revealed Deuteronomy 1:6-8 and gave me the word
Oh,
move. Yeah. And
yeah,
I'm like, I don't hang out in Deuteronomy like ever. Like
really.
I'm never like, ooh, I need inspiration. Let me jump over to Deuteronomy. No, that is not where I gain my strength from. Yeah. And so I just thought, okay, well, he wants me to move. And last year, the words that were really spoken over me and the scriptures given to me were expanded territories, right? And so I ended the year being like, well, I didn't get expanded territories and I didn't get expanded blessing. And so I don't know what this means. So this year he gave me that, you've been on this mountain long enough and it's time to move and take the lands that I've promised to you. And so I shared this with you and you were like, "Oh, look at all the territories that he laid out for you. Look at what a huge area this is that he's talking about." And I just began praying like, "God, allow me to move in you as you move through me." And that just became my prayer because I didn't know what the heck he meant by move. He likes to give me all these cryptic, you know, things. So yeah, so since then, we did a freedom business forum in Thailand where the whole entire focus was economic empowerment for individuals that have experienced trafficking. And this was a global meeting with 150 different members from all across the world, that this is their primary focus is ending trafficking by eliminating vulnerabilities, by breaking cycles of poverty, by empowering individuals. So through that, we made some incredible connections with incredible organizations. And we have some partnerships going on in Nepal right now where we're working with an organization that employs survivors of trafficking and exploitation. And they're working on snapback hats and trucker hats for us. And we're really excited about that because
Mhm.
there just are not ethically sourced hats like that with transparent supply chains where we know people are getting paid fair living wages to make them. So it's been one of the reasons I haven't really carried, I have the one hat with my label on it and that's it. So we're excited. They're working on new designs, they're working on prototypes. So I love the connections that came from that. And that was definitely like there was a nudge and an urge to go. And at the time I kept thinking, I'm not even really sure why I'm going because I don't really know what God's even doing with my business. And when I went to Thailand, I was at a make or break. I could easily close the doors and walk away.
Mm.
And I knew what we needed to do at the next level. I didn't know how to get to it. And I was out of money. I was tired. I was burnt out. And so I kind of went into it and literally thought, I don't even know why I'm here. Like, I don't know why I came. There's people here with established social enterprises that are doing well. And I'm like, it felt all very conceptual for me at the time. It felt like a really good idea, but nothing has been successful in the terms of the amount of people that I want to create opportunities for, right? So yeah, so God's done beautiful things with that. He's brought some amazing connections out of that. And within a couple of weeks of being home from that trip, my friend Tasha messaged, who has she's been doing work on the ground in Uganda for the past 7 years. She has been begging me to come to Uganda for the last 4 years. And I kept saying, look, I'm a person that will easily say yes to way too many things, and I have to stay in my lane. And I was like, your deal is sustainable agriculture in Uganda, cool, but that's not my deal. And I need to stay in the anti-trafficking economic empowerment space. So when she called me up this year, she was like, I need to talk with you. And look, she said, I have some women's empowerment programs that we're doing in Uganda, and we're creating micro enterprise and we're creating savings programs. She said, but I really just need you to bring the Power Project here, do some business coaching with them, some entrepreneurial coaching. And she said, also, I'm working with some organizations that are serving children that have been trafficked, children that have been child brides, children that have been exploited. And she said, I just think we need to see if we can connect the dots. And then she said, this is a time, pray about it. Let's look at like September or October as a possibility. And so that's what I did for the summer. I just kind of tabled it as like, I might go to Uganda in the fall. I don't know. I'm just going to pray about this. And yeah, so I went to market at the beginning of August, mid-August, for our first wholesale market because the hat company is expanding and the goal is to be in real retailers nationwide by the end of 2025. So that's super exciting. going to market, like the day before I left, I was going to be gone for a week at the market. And Tasha called. She's like, "Hey, can you leave on the like August 26th?" I'm like, "Oh, like 10 days when I get back from market after I've been gone a week and I've been prepping for market all before that." I'm like, "Well, I don't really see any reason I can't. Let me just run it by my husband." So we went to Uganda, and I met the team of native Ugandans that she's working with there, the leadership team that are standing up a village and church planting in this area, that she's launching some sustainable agriculture initiatives and women's empowerment programs. And we met with a gal that's on that leadership team that lives in the slum that has an initiative to provide sanitary products to girls that are going to school that don't have products for their menstrual cycles. And then we met an aftercare home, the Love Does home, aftercare for the girls who've been exploited and trafficked. We met with a children's home, an orphanage that is taking in kids with all sorts of trauma, that have been given up by mothers with all sorts of trauma, that started out as children with all sorts of trauma. So all of these cycles. We met with a team that has planted a hospital in the village there. And very similar to Thailand, I spent the first 2 days going, I have no idea why I'm here. I'm I admit that I have nothing to offer. I'm a vessel, Lord. You use me. I'm not here to fix anybody's problem, but just show me what you would like me to do. And we have had beautiful, beautiful fruit grow from those seeds that were planted within the first month that we've been home. We launched an initiative to provide products to these girls in the slums, because what happens is they don't have products and there's a stigma surrounding your menstrual cycle. So these girls that are in school, they get their periods, they won't go to school for the week that they have school because they have their period and they have no products. They will end up falling behind, they drop out of school, and then they have no education, they have no income. Well, then there are men that will provide them products in exchange for them sleeping with them. So this starts this cycle of exploitation, which leads to a cycle of prostitution or a life of sex work, right? And it unwanted teenage pregnancy, early motherhood. It just creates this entire convoluted cycle of exploitation, vulnerability, stemming from poverty and period insecurity. So we were able to tag on to the initiative that the young lady had started there and raise. Her goal was $200 US. We raised $1,200 in 48 hours. And last Saturday, they launched a power project period pad initiative in the slum, that because the leadership team has decided they are the Power Project Uganda, and that is all God. That is not me. That brand has been carried into Uganda. And they not only did they pass out pads, but they did roundtable sessions with the girls, and they shared testimonies and they shared challenges. They raised awareness about exploitation and not entering into this life to solve these problems of vulnerability and poverty. And they worshiped and they praised God and they prayed with them. And like, I have chills talking about this, because the very root, back in like 2017, when I thought maybe I'll go to Africa and maybe I'll write a book and maybe I'll start a podcast, and power was the main underlying through line of everything, right? And it was all based off of Ephesians 3:20, that according to the power that's at work within us, right? Like his power at work in us. And when I looked up, and this team of Ugandans have printed up t-shirts that say the Power Project, and the back of it says Ephesians 3:20, his power at work in us, like I could cry, because
Mm.
it's all God. And it's 7 years of like me not knowing what the heck God is doing, why he's calling me to what he's calling me to, and just the, I don't know, ignorance on fire to say like, okay, all right. Like every time I step out of my comfort zone, every time I answer him and say yes, I'm like, I don't know why I'm here. I feel unqualified, unprepared, and I don't know what the heck you're doing.
So let's talk a little bit about what you saw, because what the Dry Bones Army really wants some guidance on, what we come together once a month and listen to these stories of leaders like yourself, other survivors of trafficking, or people like yourself, or Dr. Grover was one of our guests, or some others who have shared insights about strategies for prayer. I don't think that our team would have been aware that praying for a simple need like sanitary pads for young girls in school in Africa and partnering with an organization who's going to solve that need, how that could be a strategy to ending human trafficking. So let's dig into some of your personal insights and your personal revelation that the Holy Spirit has allowed you to receive during your travels this year. Do you feel comfortable talking about some of the things outside of the conference in Thailand, or some of
Yeah.
the experiences that you had when I saw you running around Africa all over your Instagram. So living vicariously through you. I think we were on like a 12-hour difference though. So I
Yeah,
would
yeah,
have to catch
it's
up the next day. But yeah.
yes. Yeah, and I think I'm very intentional about documenting the work because I think that there's so much to be gained from sharing, literally sharing the lived experience, right? Because things can feel like they're so far away and they're over there. And so I'm not trying to be a travel influencer as my best friend's like, so what are you, like a travel influencer now? And I'm like, no, while I'm doing this and while I just have found that the most engaged content that I create is when I share the lived experience, bad and good. When I
Mhm.
shine a light in the darkness, but I also bring darkness to the surface. People really respond really well to that. And I want them to see the humanity of it. I want them to see the faces. I want them not to think about this being an issue that's tucked away far enough away that we don't need to worry about it, right? Because you and I both know this is all in our backyard right here in the US, right? Like that's one of the most common misconceptions that people have. But in Thailand, I knew I okay, our conference was in Pattaya, Thailand. And for those of you who don't know, there is one thing that Pattaya is known for, and it is um, sex tourism, right? So Westerners, primarily Westerners, travel to Pattaya to live out their fantasies with sex workers there. And people like there are people that save up for a lifetime to go have a week of debauchery in Thailand. And so I knew where I was going. I knew that Thailand as a country is beautiful and the people are lovely and they're so hospitable, they're so kind, they're wonderful human beings. And I knew that I was going to experience that culture, but that I was also going to see like the darkness of humanity, right? So we had an organization that is planted there doing outreach work every single day in one of the red light districts. So there are I can't remember exactly, but there are red light districts all across Pattaya. And so we were at the conference center that we were at, the hotel we were at. I believe we were like 2 streets over from the street. And we had gone to I'm not certain if we had gone to dinner one day or we were going to an outreach center across town and it was daylight. And you know, we're weaving in and out of the streets in Thailand and the tuk-tuks were in a Uber car or not Uber, but they're equivalent to Uber. And as I'm like uploading to my story, right? I'm talking about Thailand and I look up and I'm like, "Oh, well the signs above the businesses have changed. They are no longer written in Thai, they're written in English and they are incredibly vulgar and obscene, like more than any smutty club you see in the US. It was like, "Oh, well, that says exactly what we're doing in this place." And so I started looking around the street and I'm like, "Excuse me, what street are we on?" And one of the girls who was at the conference with me, actually, Tiffany, who has the organization in Nepal, she said, the fun one. I think we're on the fun street." And I was like, "Yeah, looks like it." Because it's daylight and I can't believe what these signs say. So, the organization Tamar Center that does the outreach there, they said the director said, "Hey, we have an outreach center in the smack dab middle of that street, and we go out and I would love to take you. Like I take groups down there if you want to go at night and see what goes on." And I was really clear about making sure that this was not a voyeuristic trip because we can tend to fall into like, ooh, let me see, and are we there for a reason? Are we bringing Jesus to the area or are we just trying to like see something? And he said, no, no, no. He said, look, we're going to take you in. We're going to show you the center. I'm going to show you the different layers of the center and what we do there for outreach. I'm going to take you to the rooftop and we're going to pray over this district. So we set out. He's like, be ready. I believe like 10 p.m. is what time we set out. And we walked the 2 blocks or what it was over to the street. And we went through, and it was a group of 4 of us girls, I believe. And then the leader of the center, who's a man that's planted there. And he said, listen, as we walk down the street, like there's going to be girls, they're hanging out at the bars. They're going to be trying to grab me into a bar. They're probably going to touch you because like women are not a threat to them. Like they would rather you be their customers. So they're probably going to love on you as you walk through the street. And the only term that I can come up with that like most accurately explains my feelings and what I experienced emotionally walking through that street is righteous indignation. Like I was like, I don't know if I can say it. I was pissed, like in the holiest of ways as we walked down the street, because you're just looking at, there's 900 women in this street, in a street that I don't even know if it's a half mile long. I mean, it's an alley basically. And it's just bars lined on both sides of the street. And the girls work in the bars. They live above the bars. That's where their apartments are. And the bar owner is not their trafficker, but they have to pay rent to the bar owner and they have to see so many customers to pay the rent. And their goal is to bring customers into the bar. And so they're technically free to go, not held against their will, but they're also trapped in a life of a cycle, right? That they've come to try because they've come from villages and they've come from abject poverty and they're looking for work. And this is the line of work that they end up in. So girls are scantily clad. They're walking around, in their G-strings and topless and they're just trying, like, it's all like one big bachelor party. It's like the biggest, craziest, wildest bachelor party you can think on like steroids. And they're trying to pull guys into bars. There are like groups of people who literally are just walking through the street and ended up on the wrong street, right? And then there's others that they've come here for one thing and you can see it. And you can see it in their eyes and you feel the wickedness that is at work and the spiritual bondage that is at work in this space. And I wanted to physically harm these buyers. And the girl walking alongside me, I said, what are you experiencing right now? Because it's just, there's noise. The bars have their music so loud, you just feel it pumping inside your chest. There's people like passing you left and right. There's mopeds scooting around you, almost running over you because they're looking at the women in the bars. There's women coming out, hanging on people. It's like drug fueled, alcohol fueled debauchery. I said, and like, I'm a person that, I'm in Vegas a lot. And so when I say it's like a lot, it's a lot. And I said, what are you experiencing right now? And she said, I think so much sadness. And she said, and I was like, I want to murder people. I want to throat punch that guy on that moped that is like looking at this woman with the most nasty look on his face I've ever seen in my life. Like I physically almost like threw a hand out and knocked him off the moped as he came by me. Like that was my guttural reaction to what I felt there. And she was like, oh, it's a little harsh. I'm like, I don't know. I just like, I'm so angry. Like, I'm so angry at this. And the fact that humans are exploiting other human beings like this. So we halfway in the middle of the street, we stop. They roll up a garage door, and here's the center. And there's a bar next to it, a bar on each side of it, a bar across from it. There's people in and out. And we went in and they showed us the ground floor level is a hair salon. And they do hair for the girls that are in that district, and they build relationships with them. And if and when the girls choose to leave the lifestyle, they do training, vocational training on site to teach them cosmetology and how to do hair. And it's disguised as a hair salon, right? And then the middle center is their training center where they teach English, where they do prayer meetings, where they have church, where they do vocational training and educational training. And then the third floor is like they have a place. Oh, they have a place for the girls to sleep, because when they go with a client, if they go to the hotel with the client, oftentimes they come back in the morning hours before the bars open. And so they live above the bar, and the bar owner doesn't give them a key to his bar because he doesn't want them stealing his liquor, what have you. So they have no place to sleep after a night out of work. And there's typically they said anywhere from about a 4-hour window where they don't have anywhere to go. So there's mats on the floor in this room, and it's just a safe place that they can come and they can sleep and no one's going to hurt them. And then we went up onto the rooftop and we looked down over this red light district of all of the absolute worst of humanity, laid out below us, and you can just see the scene and you can watch the scene and you hear the laughing and the shouting, and then you can look up and your eye level with the apartments and the laundry hanging out drying, and the life that these women are in. And so we prayed over this district. We all joined a circle and we, hands outstretched, prayed over that space. Are you familiar with this song? Is it Chris Tomlin, God of the City? That song was written on this rooftop overlooking this red light district.
What?
Yes. And literally, when you're like, all I could think was like, man, like he's still the God of this city. Like he's the God of these people. Like all of these people down here who are choosing not to worship him. And I just started praying like, God, like let these women know their identity in you. Let them know you as their God. Let them know their worth. Let them know their value. And I need these men and these people that are purchasing these individuals and these women, I need them to know this God. I need them to know their God. And I just started praying like, God, let these men know your value and worth. And like let something supernatural happen tonight where they are so overwhelmed with your power that they can't do what they came here to do. Like let things not work tonight. That would be awesome for me.
Okay, so let's talk about some prayer strategy. I'm glad that you're bringing this up because I've been in red light districts like this. I haven't been on that rooftop yet. Now
You
it's
will.
on my list of places to go. But I think that the most strategic way to pray in a place like that is for impotence, for there to be no strength, no power to complete the task that they set out to do, and a holy conviction, the fire of God to fall upon these men who came with a burning desire in their hearts, a burning, something burned into their mind that they saw in probably pornography. And now they're putting feet to their flame, just like you were, just like you were. You had the whispers in the night, you had the stirring, you had the pounding of your heart, and you're like connected to Jesus. You said, oh, how do I solve this urge that you've put inside of me? It drew you there. They were drawn there as well. They have a lot of the same physical manifestations of that desire being birthed in them and being kindled in them and growing into a raging fire until they took as much of a chance as you did. When you got on the plane and went to Thailand, they got out with the evil intentions though, because they are clearly serving a completely different God. The God that they're serving brings them into places of destruction. This is not God's plan for their life. And I'm not sympathetic to people who participate in sex trafficking, whether they're buying or selling. I'm not sympathetic at all, but I do understand, and it can help us to shape strategic prayers.
So in Uganda, the first day literally, I got off the plane and the team took me to a lovely meal on the banks of Lake Victoria, which was, I was like, oh, this is amazing. And I was told like, hey, this is probably going to be the best meal you have all week long. So we're taking you here first. And the rest of the week, it may be questionable. So it was beautiful. We had a great lunch. And then from there, they took me straight to the slum of Kampala. And there are, I believe, 7 slums around Kampala, and this one, Nemawango, is the one that we plugged into. It's the one that we did the period pad outreach. And I, I'm pretty comfortable out of my comfort zone, and I'm pretty comfortable in places where people are very vulnerable and very exploited. I would not recommend anyone who doesn't have experience in a developing country or in a situation that's not comfortable to you to just go straight to the slum. You probably need a couple of days to acclimate before you go there. And so I didn't know what to expect. I knew that they told me this is the poorest of the poor. These are the most dire living circumstances, because even the people in the village who lack resources have a better quality of life than the people who have come to the city looking for work. And there are all of these stereotypes and stigmas with what region, what area you come from, and your education, and even amongst the community. So these people end up very like ostracized, living in the slum, incredibly impoverished. And it is not a place that is faint of heart. It feels full of despair, and it feels full of wicked at play, but it feels even more hopeless than the red light district in
Mm.
Thailand did. And I went, there were two of us that were white, or Mazungus, as the Ugandans call us. And then we were with the leadership team there, who are native Ugandans that the majority of them grew up in a slum, or a slum like the one that we were visiting. And we met with Vivian, the young lady that is just really leading. I mean, she want to talk about like, whew, this 24-year-old girl is just the Jesus that people are seeing in the slum. And she has such a heart for empowering them. And so she said, we're going to take you to some houses. We're going to do some home visits, and we're going to go meet some people and hear some stories. And this is a place that you just constantly feel like you need to watch your back. You constantly feel like, I mean, you feel like you don't want to stand out. You don't want to draw attention to yourself. They said, don't bring any valuables, leave your phones in the van. Don't take anything that can be snatched from you, and stay close in this pack. And thankfully we had 4 big, strong Ugandan men with us that had connections with some people in the community. So they had already told them like, hey, keep an eye out for us, and make sure that our backs are taken care of while we're in the slum, right? So we wove in and out of tight little alleyways that wouldn't even be considered alleyways, but walkways, pathways. There's raw sewage draining down the ground that we're walking over. It's vile, like it's a vile place. And a lot of people without hope, and a lot of people who don't know what their identity is. So the first home that we went to, once again, I was in a place of like, okay, God, why am I here? Why did you call me here? What am I supposed to do? Like, you know, just having some intent conversations with God as you're walking through a very uncomfortable, um, scary place, right? And as we made our way through the homes, which are like 6 by 8 mud huts, in the form of like a little concrete square, as we made our way through that, and the filth and the trash and babies running everywhere, half dressed, and kids coming and flocking to us because there were Mzungus, and some of them have never seen a white person and they want to check you out and see what's going on with you. They led us to this house, and it was a house where our leader, asked in native language, said, is your mom home? Kids greeted the door. Is your mom home? Will you go get your mom? And 2 girls came to the door. This is the first house that we went to. 2 young girls came to the door, both with babies on hips and lots of babies around them. And our leader introduced himself, and he said, these are our friends, and they're here visiting. And how can we pray for you tonight? Like, what can we pray for? And so the girl said something to the leader, and he choked up, and I it wasn't in English. I wasn't sure what was being said or communicated. And it's dark at this point. Like, darkness has fallen. There's people all around me, and I'm in a, like, this kind of situation, right? I'm like looking over my shoulders, like, okay, what are we doing? And so he got choked up when she responded, and he covered his mouth for a bit, and he looked down, and he fought back some tears, and he looked up and he said, "They want you to pray for the women in this community because their only option in life is prostitution." And it hit me so hard, like, just the Holy Spirit, like, I just was overwhelmed with so much empathy. And wow, this is the very first thing we're doing when we get off the plane, huh? Like, I've been questioning why I'm here. And so, okay. And he said, Mama Texas, which is what they call me. He says,
Mhm.
would you pray? Would you pray for the women in this slum? And I'm not short for words ever, in case you can't tell. And I just, like, everything caught in my throat, and I did not think I could form the words to pray over this hopeless place. I didn't know that I could speak identity to these women when everything looks so hopeless and desperate. And I mean, I even, like, I fought back tears. I stood with a lump in my throat, and I shook my head, and I looked at him and I said, I don't think I can. And he said, "You can. That's why you're here." And I was like, "Okay, God, that's why I'm here. And it's your power at work within me, right?" And so I just began praying over the women there, that they would know their identity, they would know their worth, they would know their value, that what we see with our physical eyes is not what's happening spiritually. And he's a God of breakthroughs, and he's a God of restoration, and he's a God of redemption. And I just started praying, like, truth over these women in this space. And um, and so we said our goodbyes as we walked our way down the walkway past the house and down some steps, because theirs was, like, elevated up. And as we walked off, I looked back and I realized, like, oh, well, directly next door there's a bar with these men sitting on stools and drinking, and some lights. Like, it's obvious that it's a bar, not like anything we would envision, but it's a bar. And I thought, huh, well, their house was right next to the bar. And then as we continued walking, I looked back again and I thought, well, it kind of looks connected to the bar. And so I'm processing real time all night long. And at the end of the night, my friend that I was with, she said, "Yeah, did you notice the guys that were in the bar next door, like, drinking while we were, like, standing on the porch of the house next to that, like, praying?" And I said, "Yeah, actually, did we just pray on the steps of a brothel? Is that what just happened?" And my friend said, "Yeah. Yeah, that's what just happened." And I thought, "Okay, God, like, this is why I'm here. I'm here to just to pray your truth and your identity over these people." And from there, the next prayer request that was issued throughout the night that stuck home was that the girls there needed sanitary products because they couldn't go to school when they didn't have pads. And I thought at the time, like, oh, well, that's something I never thought of as a need, and that's interesting. And then as the week developed, we realized this just crazy cycle, like you said, like, they're ending up in a life of exploitation and sex work because they didn't have pads to go to school. This is mind-blowing to me that it's 2024 and we have people living in a space where they don't see any other choice in their life but to be in this cycle of exploitation because of poverty, abject poverty and period insecurity. And so, yeah, when I came home and Vivian shared with me, like, this campaign that she was doing, she wasn't asking for anything. She just said, "Hey, this is a campaign that my friend Jovan and I were hosting, and we want to provide pads to 40 girls that are going back to school next week so that they can stay in school this semester and not have to miss school because of their periods." And I thought, well, I said, "What's your goal?" And she said, to provide pads to girls so they can go back to school. I said, "No, no, no. Financially, what's your financial goal?" And she said, "Well, $200, which is a lot. Like, that's a very large amount because the average Ugandan lives on less than $1 a day. And so $200 is huge." And I said, well, let me see what I can do. So I wrote up a blog post and I shared it on Instagram and Facebook. Because I can't fix anyone's problems, right? But I can sure as heck like spread the word. So we raised $1,200 in 48 hours, and they were able to go, and the thanks and the gratitude that has been shared. Like, I handed out, so our hat bands have stamped leather bands on them that survivors of exploitation and trafficking in the United States make our hat bands for us, right? So I took bracelets, which are made from the scraps of our hat bands, that have an X, just a simple X in the center of them. And we hand them out at markets and events to share our mission that says, like, this is to end human trafficking. This was stamped by a survivor. This is why we do what we do. So I took a bundle of them with me to Uganda. And as I was leaving, I handed the leader, Vivian, I said, I'm going to leave these bracelets with you. Would you just hand them out to some of the girls in the slum and just tell them, like, I'm praying for them and we are looking for ways to give them other opportunities in life. Like, use this to spread awareness. So the videos and the pictures I have from the girls that are wearing these X bracelets in Uganda that are like thrilled and so excited to be a part of this initiative and to know that people see them and to know that people care that they're on their period. Like, is huge. And to see like God's work there and to see like these girls are going to stay in school. These girls might graduate. These girls might be educated. These girls might get a job. Like, we're going to teach them. I had a call right before this with 4 different organizations that are on the ground and in the US creating opportunities to teach vocational training and teach these women how to make these pads and teach these women how to start a business selling these pads, creating an economic empowerment piece around their greatest struggle in life, right? And to keep them from being exploited and vulnerable. So if you want to think about like how to pray, and when people say like all we can do is pray, like, girl, stop. What you can do is pray. Like, that's it. Like, that's when I was in Uganda to pray, right? And I've come back from Uganda praying, and I have a prayer team collective that our friend leads once a month with all of these people with vested interest in Uganda that are just praying over Uganda right now. And we're seeing like so much freedom be birthed out of the last month. And we're seeing so many testimonies of people experiencing God's love for the first time. And are they still living in poverty right now? Yes. Are they still facing insurmountable challenges that I know nothing about and a lived experience that I've never had to walk through? Yes. But have they found joy in Christ in the midst of that hope and despair? Yes. And that's what it's about, right? Like, it's about that experience and that transformational life change that lets us view our circumstances differently and find joy and find hope. So if you can pray, like, pray for hope to be found in the space, in that place of despair, right? Because you can't fix the problems of the world and you can become super overwhelmed. And in all the places I've been since I was 18 years old doing mission work in developing countries, this is the most need I've ever seen. And I could very easily say, like, this is too big and it's too much, God. But I'm just going to pray that the God of the city is in control and he's the God of hope and he's the God of joy. And I'm going to tell every single person I can find about him so that they can find joy in that God-forsaken place that they find themselves in.
So how can people find you? Where are you on social media, your website? Talk about your book, how they can get your book, and maybe what's next.
Well, thank you. So the dash, like the little hyphen, thepowerproject.com. So the-powerproject.com. That is our umbrella website, and you can find most things there. It probably needs a little updating, but you can get to all of the right places from there, right? And then that's going to link to the Power Hat Co. There's a link on there. You can go straight to thepowerhatco.com. The Power Project site, the-powerproject.com, just has our whole overarching umbrella, which is, like you said, empowering individuals, right? Like that's what it's all about. And on Instagram, I'm Brandi Voth, BRANDI VOTH, and I answer all my own DMs. And the Power Hat Co is on Instagram. if you want to follow us, we would love that. It really does help as we move into the wholesale channels, having that engaged following. And then the underscore power project on Instagram is the platform where I share podcast information, event information, and just uplifting, savable graphics that you can share that just point towards growth mindset in Christ and developing those skills. So those are the ways to find me. Like, honestly, like Instagram is the easiest way to get in touch with me because I have maybe 10,000 unread emails altogether because there are 6 different email accounts on my phone. And what's next is I'm speaking at the Boldly conference on October 18th in Dallas. And we are talking about the body of Christ, collaborations, working with others to accomplish his purpose. So if you haven't picked up tickets for that, you can go online to Google the Boldly conference, and then you can use code Brandi Voth for a discount on that.
So I will link all of this in the description, and I'll add that code if people want to get that ticket, and
Yeah.
they can meet you in person and check
And
out.
you can watch virtually also. So
Okay.
you can get a virtual ticket and tune in. And the Boldly conference is through the Polish Network, and the whole focus is the intersection of business and faith. So it's a lot of people that speak my language because I love bringing business and faith and women into a room together and finding out ways that we can lift each other up. We just launched this season new styles. So this is our rolled brim with our cattleman's crown. And then we have cowboy hats, which my husband and boys are so excited about. We have both wool felt, like Western felt cowboy hats, and we have beaver felt cowboy hats, which are going to be like a much higher end hat. People in the Western industry, it's a lifetime hat, right? It's not just a seasonal hat. So we're crossing into that market. We don't want to ever sit in one box because we're a brand that we feel like really we want to reach everyone. And so we don't want people to feel like we're not just a Western brand, but we're also not an urban brand. We're a lifestyle brand. And we believe that there's a hat for everybody.
And it's a purpose-driven brand. And so if you're into hats, you got to watch YouTube so you can check out Brandi's cool hat. But go to the-powerproject.com. I'm going to link it all in the description below. Connect on Instagram. Brandi's really active on Instagram. And I'll make sure that you have the links for the Boldly conference with the special discount code as well, if you want to do in person or virtual. And it's been a delight, absolutely, having you as a guest today. Brandi, I love you. We're sisters. Last question. Is there anything specifically we can pray for you about?
I'm pulled in a lot of different directions, as you can tell. And there we are on the verge of God doing a major breakthrough right now, and I know that. And I get very weary when God's on the verge of a breakthrough, and I tend to find a place that would be easy to give up and quit and sit at home and eat bonbons. So I'm not experiencing that, but I anticipate it. So I just would like you to pray that I stay strengthened and encouraged. I love being plugged into this army, and I love adding prayer warriors to the team. So thank you for inviting me here.
Absolutely. Well, you heard it. You're going to want to check in the description down below to see some of those scriptures that Brandi shared and some of the links so you can continue to connect with her and learn more about the incredible work that she's doing. The Power Hat Company is changing the world, and it's because it's being led by a humble leader who is listening very carefully to how God is directing her steps. So be praying for Brandi, be praying for her work to be effective, be praying for those individuals in Thailand, the individuals in Uganda, and all over the world that that she's networking together with to release the hope that comes with Jesus and the power that comes with him working inside of us. So thank you for being a part of the Dry Bones Army podcast this month. And remember to go to the drybonesarmy.com to sign up for our newsletters, and so you can be reminded when new shows come out, and you're going to get some tools. You're going to get some bullets to add to your prophetic weapons pile, your armory, so you can be praying for an end to human trafficking. And it's absolutely free to sign up. Find us all over social media at authorsandystorm.com. You can find all the links. And thanks again to our guest, Brandi Voth. I'll see you next month, the second Tuesday of the month, for our next episode of the Dry Bones Army podcast. And until then, God bless you and have an amazing day.